might have looked like, sounded like, or even felt like for Jesus on Palm Sunday? I'm standing here in part of our Palm Sunday station for the Walk with Jesus Easter event at 9:30 on Easter morning. We hope you will join us to get to experience what it must have been like. And now, a reading from the Gospel of Luke. After Jesus said this, he continued on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. As Jesus came to Bethphage and Bethany on the Mount of Olives, he gave 2 disciples a task. He said, "Go into the village over there. When you enter it, you will find tied up there a colt that no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If someone asks, 'Why are you untying it?' just say, 'Its master needs it.'" Those who had been sent found it exactly as he said. As they were untying the colt, its owner said to them, "Why are you untying the colt?" They replied, "Its master needs it." They brought it to Jesus, threw their clothes on the colt, and lifted Jesus onto it. As Jesus rode along, they spread their clothes on the road. As Jesus approached the road leading down from Mount of Olives, the whole throng of his disciples began rejoicing. They praised God with a loud voice because of all the mighty things they had seen. They said, "Blessings on the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest heavens." Some of the Pharisees from the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, scold your disciples. Tell them to stop." He answered, "I tell you, if they were silent, the stones would shout."
Friends, this week we begin our turn toward Holy Week and toward the complex liturgy with which it begins, which is Palm/Passion Sunday, this coming Sunday. So which is it, Palms or Passion? Some of us may remember that these two events were not always part of the same Sunday, and your memories are correct. Prior to Vatican II, it was typical practice to read a Passion narrative on the Sunday prior and then celebrate Palm Sunday as a day unto itself to kick off Holy Week. But beginning with the publication of the 3-year Roman Catholic lectionary in 1969, followed then by the ecumenical 3-year lectionary and calendar projects that culminated in the Revised Common Lectionary in 1992, that changed. Now, some folks have gotten the idea that the primary reason for this change was a concern that people may not be likely to come to services on Good Friday where they would hear the entire Passion narrative. And the threat of a low turnout prompted the lectionary people to put the Passion narrative into Palm Sunday so that more people would have a chance to hear it. But in reality, that was not the purpose at all. What was really at stake in making this change was a recovery of ancient Christian practice, not only of this one particular Sunday, but of Lent itself, the season of Lent. A recovery that was part and parcel of many findings of liturgical scholarship and ecumenical work beginning in the late 19th century. And the recovery of Lent, this recovery, was not simply about resyncing our current calendars with more ancient ones, but instead it was about recovering the Church's mission of discipling people in the way of Jesus and realigning our worship practices to support that mission. Lent proper begins on Ash Wednesday and it ends on Palm Passion Sunday, which serves as a type of pivot point or hinge into our Holy Week experiences. During Lent, we focus on core stories and practices of Jesus' ministry. And during Holy Week, we focus intensely on the last days, his execution, his burial, and finally his resurrection. And so we heard the scripture of Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem today, which is always part of the Palms liturgy. But on this Sunday, we'll hear this scripture juxtaposed against the longer Passion narrative from the Gospel of Luke in worship, which details the painful and somewhat gruesome story of Jesus' crucifixion and the events that led up to it, our pivot point or hinge into Holy Week. These stories truly are juxtapositions of one another. They are not thematically cohesive. In fact, they are as complex as our own lives. I think that it's important that we consider these two stories not simply as historical accounts. We should be experiencing them instead as contemporary disciples. You could enter today's passage, for example, at one of several points, perhaps as the disciples sent to retrieve the colt. Jesus does sometimes call us to do things that seem a bit strange. Or you could enter it as one called to give your very best, even today, offering the colt simply because the Lord needs it. Each of those pathways leads to both joy and sacrifice. Or you could enter the narrative along with the multitude of the disciples who greet Jesus as their king. That's what's going on in the passage we heard this morning. The colt, which was prophesied in Zechariah chapter 9, and the variation on Psalm 118, "Blessed is the King," make that unmistakable point. And naming Jesus as King changes everything. In a realm with emperors, naming anyone other than Caesar as king could bring lethal consequences, as it did for Jesus. But what about us today? It is problematic language. Those who call Jesus king may be tempted to see themselves as his royal courtiers, but the gospel and the other texts that we will hear this week will have none of that. Yes, we are to follow as subjects must do, but we are to follow in his way of self-giving love and service. And the question that leaves all of us asking is, what will that mean for us? I invite you to ponder that question throughout this upcoming Holy Week and in the seasons ahead.